The European Commission is considering adding to the EU's new 15th package of sanctions a number of Russian military companies and Chinese firms that help the Federation develop and produce attack drones. Among other things, they supply engines and other components.
The EU also proposed adding a Chinese national who controls a company that has breached EU trade restrictions to the sanctions program, a Hong Kong-based firm that has provided Russian military firms with banned microelectronic components, and North Korean defense officials involved with the country's decision to deploy troops to aid Russia, according to the documents, from a Bloomberg publication.
Back in July 2024, Bloomberg wrote that Chinese and Russian companies were developing an attack drone similar to Iran's Shahed 136. Later in September, Reuters, citing the EU External Action Service, reported that Russia had launched a program in China to develop and produce long-range attack drones for the war against Ukraine.
It is interesting that the European Commission and the leadership of European countries in general are ready to talk about this publicly and are ready to take some action. If the EU imposes sanctions against companies, I think that Beijing will have to find some ways to counteract, but the resistance will be primarily forceful, because China also has levers of influence over the EU, in particular Germany, as their factories work in China. But in general, China is much more dependent on the West.
Information about the introduction of sanctions against Chinese companies appeared against the backdrop of the foreign ministers of the Group of 7 countries meeting in Italy. The agenda is to increase pressure on China for its support of Russia. However, Beijing denies partnership with Moscow in the military field. Xi Jinping has repeatedly criticized Western sanctions against the aggressor country and said that he would not supply lethal aid to either side.
China has never provided lethal weapons to any party in the Russia-Ukraine conflict, strictly controls the export of dual-use items including drones, and opposes the use of civilian drones for military purposes. Mao Ning, spokesperson for China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, from a Bloomberg publication.
The U.S. announced sanctions against China for the first time in October 2024. In the near future, Washington will take an even tougher stance, experts believe.
From the new year, we will see tougher interactions between China and the USA. First of all, in the economic field, because Trump has publicly repeatedly promised the introduction of export duties and the introduction of a pressure nomenclature on China, and the overall situation for China is likely to worsen.
The U.S. House of Representatives Committee said that since 2020, Hong Kong has become a center of financial crimes for the authoritarian axis of China, Iran, Russia and North Korea. It's about giving Russia access to banned Western technology, setting up fake companies to buy Iranian banned oil, and helping to trade gold from Russia. Reported by Anastasia Tarnavska, Yulia Hranovska, UATV News.